As more cuts are made from the Edmonton Oilers training camp, the final roster is finally starting to take shape. Who is on waivers and who is still in camp with the Edmonton Oilers? That and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers.
You're Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Oilers podcast. I am your host and former Oilers game day producer, Brett Holden. As mentioned on today's episode, the Edmonton Oilers have made some cuts. So who's still in camp and what does that really clear up for the Edmonton Oilers when it comes to their final roster decision come opening day? That'll come up a little later on today's episode. Also coming up on today's episode, Jack Campbell and how his game differs from Mike Smith and how the Edmonton Oilers are going to have to adjust their game, if at all, because of that. All that and much more on today's episode of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you find your podcast. Plus, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with all the props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And you know what starts today? The NHL season, baby. And as I'm recording this, the first fight of the NHL season just happened between the Nashville Predators and the San Jose Sharks. Hockey is back, baby. That is beautiful. Yes, the first games of the regular season are underway in the NHL. They are Nashville and San Jose are over in Czech Republic, the Czech Republic right now. As Tomáš Hertl actually scored and got serenaded. It's his hometown there. But that means that the Edmonton Oilers regular season is also right around the corner, and that means the final cuts are being made. And today, a couple of Edmonton Oilers have hit the waiver wire. One is a little bit of a shock, especially after how we talked about him yesterday. But the other one, not so much, a little bit expected, and we will see how it turns out. Mattias, Janmark, and Dimitri Samarucov have hit the waiver wire for the Edmonton Oilers today. That is with purpose of assignment to Bakersfield. Well, I'm not going to bury the lead here. It may be a bit of a concern that Dmitri Zamarukov might get claimed. Frank Saravalli noted specifically and tweeted out that he would watch for Klim Kostin from St. Louis and Dimitri Zamarukov off of the waiver wire. A lot of interest there, especially because of how tight the cap is. It's been a flat cap, and a lot of teams around the league need some defensemen who can perform on a cheaper contract, and that's what Dimitri Zamarukov can do. He's an NHL-ready defenseman who has just really been caught consistently in his career on crowded blue lines, just being on the outside looking in. But there are a lot of teams around the league who could use a guy like him, and he's young. He has a lot of very good qualities as a defenseman and a young defenseman as well. Offensive upside, defensively smart, can move the puck. He's rangy, he's big. A lot of really nice things to think about when it comes to Dimitri Zamarukov. Could a new system also benefit him as well and become go from a third line or third pairing defenseman to a top four defenseman? We'll see, but that is all the upside that all of these teams are looking at. Now, you can also take a look at, this kid has been in the organization for the Edmonton Oilers for a while, an organization that hasn't exactly been known for developing talent. How do all of these teams feel trying to pick up a player like that? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. The other thing about this move for Dimitri Samarucov is this means Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg are the two players fighting for that last spot in the Edmonton Oilers, or on the Edmonton Oilers blue line. We talked about this yesterday, was between Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg and Dimitri Samarucov. We did throw Jason Demers in there. We'll see. The thing about this spot, and that's the Philip Broberg spot, is that it's a consistent spot. It's an everyday spot for the Edmonton Oilers, a top 6 defenseman spot. Not that 7th defenseman who will slot in every game here and there. No, this is an everyday player spot, and that is why I don't want Jason Demers in that conversation exactly. I know I put him in there yesterday. Sometimes you get some clarity, you know what I'm saying? But yes, no, it means that Marcus Niemelainen has pushed so hard on Philip Broberg that, hey, sorry, Dimitri, A, you are the odd man out, but B, Marcus Niemelainen is on the brink of making this team out of camp. Now, the other thing as well when it comes to that is Jay Woodcroft has said the battle there is on a, quote, razor's edge. One move this way, one move that way could alter the way that the decision goes. But for now, Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg are the last two in camp fighting for that spot on the back end. Now, on the Mattias Janmark point, Mattias Janmark, a very useful two-way, mostly a defensive forward. But the thing is that he's on a $1.25 million contract. A lot of people are looking at Jordy Martinook on the waiver wire today as well from the Carolina Hurricanes and going, that's a player that we would want as well. But both Janmark and Martinook do the same thing. Yeah, that's not confusing at all, Janmark and Martinook. But Martinook has a $1.8 million cap hit right now. When you take a look at Janmark's at 1.25, our team's going to go, okay, well, they both do very similar things. They're very similar players. They're similar in age. But Janmark is cheaper. Carolina has also been not necessarily vocal, but it has been reported that they do want to keep Martinook. Just comes down to the cap and just circumventing that kind of system there in the NHL. That's also probably mostly what's going on with Janmark and Samorukov. And you'll also see decisions later on that will help the salary cap for the Edmonton Oilers and a lot of other teams in the NHL. You'll see those tough decisions. But could Janmark get picked up here? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be happy about it because he is a very solid ad. But that's, as Jay Woodcroft puts it, first world problems. When you are playing your best players and when you're a team like the Edmonton Oilers, you need to have your best players on the ice. This was a discussion between Elliot Friedman and Bob Stauffer today on Oilers Now. The Edmonton Oilers are at the stage where you have to play and have on your team the best players. You can't go, this guy needs a little bit more development, or maybe, let's get this guy into more games just to develop him a little more, whatever. You have to have the best players in the lineup every game so you can go out there and win every game. And Dylan Holloway has forced those decisions. James Hamblin has forced those decisions. Marcus Niemelainen, obviously, has forced those decisions. We're seeing it now start to come to fruition. We shall see what that means because these next couple of games really tell you what the Edmonton Oilers are looking for in their roster. And that starts tonight, as Jay Woodcroft says, as the Edmonton Oilers play the Seattle Kraken here in Edmonton tonight. What is the lineup going to look like, as there's a lot of chatter around the roster today? We will talk about that in just a second, but I want to tell you more about our partners over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game you can find. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sport wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. They're not kidding. Literally every sport out there. I've found like Mexican League baseball, Korean baseball, Japanese baseball. It is immense. Some of the stuff that you find on there is literally, when they say every sport out there, it is every sport out there. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including not the so obscure ones like MLB, NBA, NHL. By the way, the MLB postseason also starts today. The Blue Jays playing today against the Seattle Mariners. What a series that's going to be. Oh, Jays. Anyways, MMA is also on there. UFC, boxing, golf, esports, all of the things over there. Head to BetOnline or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Where we are going to continue today is with the Edmonton Oilers and the Seattle Kraken preview, as we have already got a bunch of names told that are not in the lineup today. We have not had any lines necessarily or specifically yet, but we can kind of deduce who will and won't be in the lineup, or what the lines will look like, who's not in the lineup, today. Who has been confirmed not in the lineup so far by Jay Woodcroft and team official, well, mostly Jay Woodcroft here, actually entirely Jay Woodcroft. Kyler Yamamoto has a knock as well, will not play tonight against Seattle. That was confirmed by Jay Woodcroft. Warren Foegele as well, not in the lineup for the Edmonton Oilers. Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg will both not be in the lineup, despite both fighting for the same spot tonight. Also, obviously not in the lineup, Dimitri Samarucov and Mattias Janmark, both on waivers today. So, what does that mean with all of Yamamoto, who is a top six forward for the Oilers, Warren Foegele, who's fighting for a bottom six spot with the Oilers, Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg, who are both fighting for the exact same spot? You're thinking, why do you not have them both in the lineup? Well, here's kind of, I don't want to say the expected lines. We won't know lines until warm up really today, until they skate with each other at warm up in their rushes. But you can deduce who is in the lineup today. Evander Kane, Connor McDavid. And the interesting thing is that yes, Kyler Yamamoto's not in the lineup today. So who's going to play on that right side with Connor McDavid? I assume it'll be similar to what practice was yesterday, and they'll just placehold Derek Ryan in there with Kyler Yamamoto. They'll placehold Derek Ryan. So it'll be Evander Kane, Connor McDavid, and Derek Ryan. The second line, I think we'll still see Holloway in that top six. Holloway, Draisaitl, and Hyman. As Draisaitl said today, they are very excited to start to see more of a rounding out of what the team looks like in games like this in the preseason. So now, now it seems like the players also seem like the season starts today. It'll be interesting to see the work ethic we see from a lot of the players today. We will talk about that in just a second as well. Ryan McLeod skating along with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Jesse Puljujärvi. That'll be a line to watch today to see how Puljujärvi does on that line. A very solid shutdown defensive line, I think, with fantastic transition skills, offensive upside out the roof. I really like that line as well. And I think the fourth line will be Brad Malone, James Hamblin, and Devin Shore. The interesting thing will be is to see who really stands out on that fourth line for the Edmonton Oilers, as it seems like it might be a battle between Malone, Hamblin, and Shore. With Janmark on waivers, it had to be one of Janmark or Ryan hitting waivers for the Edmonton Oilers to be salary cap compliant. So that tells me Derek Ryan is on the team regardless. So that battle for the fourth line really comes down to who is on that fourth line today, with Brad Malone, Devin Shore, and James Hamblin. James Hamblin still in camp, very late in camp. That good to see as well. That shows the development too. On the back end, Darnell Nurse skating along with Cody Ceci, Brett Kulak, and Evan Bouchard. And as mentioned, without Marcus Niemelainen and Philip Broberg in the lineup, Ryan Murray will be skating alongside Tyson Barrie. Now, the interesting thing is today that Tyson Barrie mentioned that, yes, Ryan Murray is a veteran defenseman, a guy who's been in the lineup for a while, but he only has one game with Ryan Murray under their belt. They are still trying to figure out that chemistry, and that is why I think you're seeing that tonight. Obviously, the Edmonton Oilers will be also carrying one of Niemelainen and Broberg, but if one of them aren't in the lineup or the Edmonton Oilers do run 11-7, that means you're going to have guys playing with each other that aren't always playing with each other. So setting that chemistry early in camp or in these games now really is the time to do it, and that's why you see Murray with Barrie tonight. Stuart Skinner, it will not be starting tonight. It is Jack Campbell getting the full 60 tonight and starting, in fact, for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, I did mention just a little bit how the work ethic. The thing about the work ethic for the Edmonton Oilers in this preseason is a lot of people have said the work ethic from the Edmonton Oilers has been something of note for them. It seems like they aren't taking it shift by shift and just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. It seems like they have had a motor and a pace to each game that they have played. And in the preseason, they are setting the tone early, and that is from line 1 to line 4. You saw Connor McDavid's goal against Vancouver in the last game in Abbotsford. That is a mid-season form goal from Connor McDavid, driving to the net, getting on his edges, forcing the defenseman to go, oh, I can't compete with this, getting in front of him and roofing it short side. That's a mid-season form play from Connor McDavid in the 4th, 5th game of the preseason in basically kind of a charity match in Abbotsford, British Columbia. That's the pace that not only the Edmonton Oilers have, but the pace that the leaders have in the room. Leon Draisaitl said today he wants to see how the Edmonton Oilers really gel, as this is an NHL lineup. These are all guys who will be playing with the Edmonton Oilers at some point in the future, during this season. Now you get to really implement your systems, play against another team who is really going to have an NHL-laden roster as well, and now you really get a sense of where your team is at. Tonight is a very important night for the Edmonton Oilers, taking a look at what they need to adjust, what works, what doesn't work, who's there, you have a battle. You have a battle here with Malone, Hamblin, and Shore. That's a battle in itself. Also, Jack Campbell. How will Jack Campbell fit in as well? A lot of things to watch for the Edmonton Oilers tonight against Seattle. A fun game to watch as well. I cannot wait for that. Now, as mentioned, Jack Campbell, he's still settling into a new system, a new organization. What does that mean for him? And what does that mean for the Edmonton Oilers when they start to draw up their strategy when it comes to the transition and all that, those beautiful things that come with coaching? We will talk about that in just a second. But first, I just want to thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen every day. Now, with your second listen, make sure you tune in to Locked On NHL, where Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast on all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date with everything in the hockey world with Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. Alrighty, and finally today we are going to head into the crease as Jack Campbell is really making an impression with the Edmonton Oilers already. Leon Draisaitl was asked today, what's it like having Jack in the team, in the dressing room? What is it just like having a new goaltender? Because Mike Smith was with the Oilers for a good chunk of time. Now the Edmonton Oilers have to put their trust in a new guy in the back end. And so far, nothing but glowing reviews. Leon, as soon as they mentioned Jack's name, just glue. He started to glow, really. His glue is not what I was going for. He really glowed is what I was going for. He started to really smile and say just how much the team loves having Jack Campbell on the Edmonton Oilers. Now, that is the big thing, a big thing when it comes to having a new goaltender in the system is having that trust. If you trust your goaltender with basically your hockey lives, that means that now you don't want to condone mistakes. You don't want to say, oh, you can make a mistake. You're going to make mistakes either way. Nobody's a perfect player. But now when you make those mistakes, you can trust that your goaltender is going to be there for you and be able to correct that mistake that you made. And so far, Jack Campbell has been doing that for the Edmonton Oilers in preseason, in practice. The amount of times that we have seen so far already, tweets coming out of practice going, Jack Campbell robs this guy. Jack Campbell has a glove on him, which the Edmonton Oilers have had a tough time with over the last couple of years. Jack Campbell has that. He has the stability that the Edmonton Oilers and gives the Edmonton Oilers the stability that they haven't had in a little while. Now, that's the other hand of the thing is that the Edmonton Oilers have had a different system in the net for a little while. A lot of praise came out today on Mike Smith and his puck playing abilities. Jay Woodcroft called him the best puck mover ever when it came to goaltenders, which was bold when you have guys like Ron Hextall, you could really go on. But that is the praise that players are giving to a guy, and obviously coaches as well, giving to a guy that they have been around every day for the last 4 years for Mike Smith, with Mike Smith. That's big praise. And that's going to be missed for the Edmonton Oilers. Tyson Barrie said, sometimes I was standing there wide open and all of a sudden he blasted by you and up the wing for a breakaway the other way. That was the ability that he had, and the Edmonton Oilers not necessarily could play to it, but could also understand that, you know what, he has that ability. Maybe I'll get open up the ice a little bit and see and push his limits a little. You knew that he was going to do it. And Jay Woodcroft has said that, yes, Jack Campbell doesn't have the puck moving ability that Mike Smith had. So we're going to not necessarily adjust our game to it, but you are going to have to keep it in mind. Now, when you do see those plays where, okay, Tyson Barrie's wide open just over by the face-off dot, now the puck's not going up the middle of the ice to the other guy on the far blue line. maybe that's the new thing that we have to keep in mind here. Not 100% sure. But that also means that more defensemen are going to be more of the play, more of the transition game is going to be started from below the face-off dots. Because now defensemen are going to have to track back behind the net, grab the puck that I'm sure Jack has sat there and left for them, or move the puck up, but it's not going to be as extensive and as precise as what Mike Smith has done. Once again, I'm not necessarily saying that that's a game plan out the window for the Oilers. Jack Campbell, I'm sure, will get assists in some way as he can play the puck. But it's difficult saying, oh, he's as good as a puck mover as Mike Smith, when Mike Smith was on a whole nother level. He's not Patrick Waugh trying to do a spinorama at the center ice, but he can still move the puck. Dwayne Rolison was the same way. Look at the way Roley moved the puck. He did his little batting. He would always flip his hands and have his glove hand over top and have his blocker on the bottom hand. And that was how he moved the puck. He was very effective. But that doesn't mean that he was throwing, I mean, yes, he did bat the puck into the net a couple times, but that doesn't mean that in every situation that he could, he was throwing the puck up 3 lines and trying to spring everybody on a breakaway. That is what Mike Smith was. But you could both say that both goaltenders were good puck movers. And that is maybe the game that Jack Campbell is going to add to the Edmonton Oilers. He is a good puck mover, but maybe not the same type of puck mover as Mike Smith. So now you just have to adjust and figure out, okay, yes, he's a good puck mover. How do I then get in position or help him become the best puck mover he can be? A lot of things still to work out, and that is why we have preseason, and that is why tonight's game against the Seattle Kraken is very important. A big game tonight. I know it's preseason, but you have to take a look at as well the development for players like Holloway, the chemistry again as well between Murray and Barry, if that is, probably is going to be pairings down the road. All these guys are guys that will be playing for the Edmonton Oilers this season. It all depends on who will be there on Wednesday when the Edmonton Oilers start their season. But tonight, you have to face the team that's in front of you. That is the Seattle Kraken here in Edmonton at Rogers, 7 p.m. I'm just trying to get tickets, but seems like we're getting to regular season prices once again. Either way, let's call it there. It is Friday. It's Friday, man. It's Saturday, Sunday. What? Yes, I can finally do it. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. It's the long weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Stay safe. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And play La Bamba, baby.